Hi, everyone. I'm Carol Pedersen, and this is Saxton Speakers Bureau's virtual book club, where we talk about books. We listen, we learn, and speak to our favorite authors about their books, why they've written them, what they hope to achieve, and yeah, just exchange stories and talk to each other about our past, our present, our future. Today, I am super excited to be interviewing Nick Bracks. Nick is a natural storyteller, an accomplished TED Talk speaker, an actor, a former athlete, and a strong advocate for positive mental health across the globe. He divides his time between Sydney and San Francisco. Please welcome Nick Bracks to the program today. Thanks for talking to me this morning. It's really nice to see you. Are you still in Oregon or have you gone back to New York?
I'm actually in Vancouver now.
Nice.
Because they opened up the border, I think a week and a half ago to Americans, and I was able to get in with the green card. So I'm just staying at a friend's for 2 weeks and then back to New York after that.
Fantastic. Well,
So
thanks for talking to me today about your book, Move Your Mind, which I just finished reading last night. And I have to be really careful as the interviewer not to make this too much about me, because there was so much in your book that I could relate to. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And one thing that I wanted to tell you really importantly is I have read hundreds of books like in a similar category. And what I loved about yours and what makes it stand out, and which I hope other people experience as well, is your story about yourself, and then just the whole strategy of how to get past your experiences of your own mental health battles, and just the simplicity of it, which was really powerful. So that's just that's my take on it. And seriously, I will refer back to it a lot. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. For example, when you decided to write Move Your Mind, what were you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, and thank you so much for that as well. It means a huge amount coming from you, so I really appreciate it. But I wrote this. The main thing I've wanted to accomplish with the book and with the publishing company and everyone sort of that we worked on it as a team effort to get this thing to come together. But there were two main things, which was trying to make it really practical so it can be used over and over again, sort of like a mental health Bible that anyone can sort of relate to, and it can be palatable and understandable for people from all walks of life. So combining that with a book that you can read from beginning to end and get an engaging story, and be engaged reading it. So trying to combine the two, because I think a lot of the time you have either one or the other. You've got something where it's an amazing story and you can read that, but it doesn't have that practical application, or you can have something that's dry and just practical. So that was, and I think, we wanted to achieve combining the two things. And I feel like from the feedback we're getting, we feel happy with, how we've done that. But that was the number one goal with it.
And so you probably answered this next question, but what's the main reason why you wrote the book?
To get these messages out to as many people as possible. I think there's a lot of information, or sort of a lot of awareness about mental health now, but and there's obviously so many amazing services people can use, and people should go and see a psychologist or psychiatrist and whatever they need to do. But this is really it's trying to just condense it into what are some how can we empower ourselves, even if we're not suffering from depression or anxiety, just in general. Everyone, it's like saying with fitness, everyone can benefit from exercising. The same thing with even if our life's going well, we can all benefit from trying to dig a little bit deeper and just do some simple things daily. So trying to make something that people can use to really embed that into their day-to-day life, and get that message out to as many people as we can.
And in the process of writing the book, Nick, what did you have, like a disciplined attempt, like every morning waking up at 4:30, writing for 3 hours, or did you just sort of randomly write the story and the methods, or how did you put it all together?
I did. So I actually said to the publishing company at the beginning when we were signing the deal that I didn't want to do it unless I had an editor or a ghostwriter or someone guiding me to put it together, because I've never written a book before, and I've got sort of access to a lot of experts and all the material and knowledge that I've done over the years. But how do I condense that? So we had um, an editor working with me, and she would help guide each week. So we sort of broke it down into a weekly thing where I would write about 5,000 words a week, or at least 5,000 words, and she would really help me have a structure on what I'd write about and how we would condense it, because my mind would be going sort of in a million different directions otherwise. So I think there's no way I would have completed it in the time we did if I didn't have that structure and discipline with it.
And fantastic that you knew that at the beginning of the process. What about sharing your personal story that you in the beginning of the book and different times throughout the book? Was that something that you've done for the first time? Was it scary, or was it a relief, or all of the above?
Yeah, it was sharing my story was fairly comfortable for me, just because I've been, public speaking for over 10 years now. And a huge part of that is centered around me, sharing my story and trying to, lead by example to show that it's okay to be vulnerable and talk about personal things. So I guess I was comfortable doing it. It probably, because it was writing a book, it meant I fleshed out things, and things came up that I, had forgotten about, because you're sitting there for such lengthy amounts of time writing things. But the core of it, I'm very comfortable with, and it's probably the number one core thing of what I try to do, which is just teaching people that again, it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to show vulnerability. It's actually healthy to do it, and it's going to help. If everyone could do that, it would make the world a lot more easy to live in.
For sure. And I wrote down a few things last night when I was preparing for this talk. You struggled with compulsive behavior, being shy and insecure, obsessive training, eating disorders, addictions, shame, guilt, denial. And then you ended up on Dancing with the Stars and doing 2 TED Talks and becoming a global speaker. What's that like now? And what, like, I feel like I understand from your book the beginning. I don't really feel like I got a sense of the middle, because the middle was you sharing strategies and advice. What was the middle like, and how did you get to the other side?
Um, the middle, in the sense of sort of, once I was on that path, how did I?
Yeah, going from
Um,
the shy and insecure, obsessive thinking,
mm,
training person to, because I always find that it's the middle where the struggle is the hardest, because you can't go back, but you still haven't got where you're going to. So what was it like for you during the middle of
yeah,
that whole?
definitely.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
the middle. Yeah, definitely. It was, yeah, definitely a struggle and confusing, and trying to find, navigate what is I was sort of trying trial and error with a lot of things, and what's the pathway that's going to work for me. How do I navigate that? Um, and then also, I guess you sort of always looking. Well, I find myself even now always looking forward, and always putting pressure on myself, and not taking that one step backwards. Even though I talk about this stuff, I'm sort of honest about the fact that I'm still, got my own things that I need to deal with, and I'm always wanting to achieve more and do more. And or you're comparing yourself to someone else, or you're trying to better yourself to get to this level, which I think a lot of that's important. But then it can become unhealthy when you, like, even the stuff you mentioned there. I thought, oh, it's actually pretty cool that I got through all of that stuff, and then did all of these different things. But in my own mind, on a daily basis, I sort of often don't think about that, and just think, oh, how do I get to the next level, and do the next thing, rather than putting it in the context of, in my own life, these are the things I've overcome, and I'm proud of that, because, and it's sort of like a gratitude thing, isn't it? So it's something that helps would help everyone, and I need to do more of myself.
So you talk a lot about fear and failure, which I would relate to being like self-sabotage. Do you still have to manage that? And if so, how do you do that?
I do. I still have to manage fear and failure, and I talk about that a lot in the book. And I think it's a hugely important thing because we, look at it in this black and white way. And I've really tried for myself to deal with that. The coping, or the way to overcome it for me, is looking at failure not as failure but as learning, because I think you do learn a lot more by failing rather than just getting what you want all the time. So if you look at it that way, then it removes so much fear, and it brings excitement, because if you're trying to do something new and different, uh, it's almost as big of a win if it doesn't go your way, because you're going to learn something if you have that lens. So I try to always remind myself that. And the part that I've gotten a lot better at that. The part I'm still need to work on a lot more is the perfectionism sort of side of, wanting to do things to such a high level, whatever it is. So I try and always remind myself it doesn't matter if I don't get it 100% right, or if it's not as, I have these grand visions in my head of where I want to be. And sometimes that can debilitate the process of just, doing something. So trying to always remind myself that it's more about, progress rather than perfection.
And the process. When my kids were
The
little,
process, yeah.
I always let them in the kitchen, learned how to bake cakes and do all these different things. And now they're in their 20s. And Liz called me last week, and she was so scared about failing at this art painting she was doing. And I said to her, think of it as like when you first learned to bake a cake. You had no idea how it was going to come out, but you tried anyway. And some of it failed, some of it worked. It's the same sort of thing. It's like, I think you talk about just get started. And when it comes to managing your mental health and well-being, ask for help. But for some people, that can be
Mm-hmm.
the most difficult part of the process. What would you suggest to today's young people about that part? Knowing when to ask for help and having the courage to do it, and who to go to.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's no different to anything else, where whatever is foreign to us, we get, overwhelmed by, or we get intimidated by, or we put pressure that we should know why am I not well versed in this area? But you can't be if you haven't done it before. It's all, everyone's got to start somewhere. So there's only one thing that I say you should never do when it comes to mental health, and that's nothing. So you should always just do something. So if you feel that there's an issue, do something about it, and ideally, do something as early on as you can. And if you are overwhelmed, or if you feel intimidated, or you don't feel comfortable talking to, a family member or a friend, or you feel like you're embarrassed, or you feel shame, that's okay as well. But do something. So maybe in that circumstance, it might be calling a free helpline. And there's plenty of free helplines out there. All you have to do is actually type into Google free mental health helpline, and a bunch will come up. You can call them, you can, tell them what the issue is, and that'll get the conversation rolling. And very quickly they'll be recommending to you, some things you can do. And so the process, like anything, like what we were talking about, is never actually as hard as we make it out in our mind. It's just taking that very first step to get the ball rolling.
And having awareness around your procrastination strategies, like
Yeah,
drugs and alcohol, over exercising, eating disorders. It's all procrastinating and avoiding facing the reality.
exactly.
There was something that I wanted that you read about. Oh, owning up to yourself and being vulnerable as you confront some difficult home truths. That made me think of Gloria Steinem, who said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off."
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. I like
Um, use of their technology and their phones and social media. And why is it important that they learn how to manage that rather than it managing them?
for staying connected, what I would say is we feel, in this day and age, like we're more connected than ever through technology and social media, but most of it's not authentic. So looking at, having real authentic connections. And that comes down to leading by example, to be open and honest with people and not feel like you have to put on a front all the time, and realizing it's actually okay, and it's going to make you feel a lot better, and it's going to make other people feel better and help them if you can be real and honest in your conversations. And if we all did that, then we would be more connected, and we wouldn't have as many problems, because we would realize that it's okay to be human and feel emotions and have ups and downs, and we can actually talk to each other and help each other to process how can we deal with that.
I think it's so hard for young people. Like when I think of myself growing up, I'm one of 9 kids. We had one telephone and one TV. And, what went on during our day at school ended once we got home. But for these kids, it's just 24 hours a day. They can access their friends, what their friends are doing, and the whole concept of, no one really posts an ugly photo of themselves on Instagram. I often, when my kids were in high school, I was like, I dare you to do that, What are some of the things you're most proud of?
That I'm most proud of in my own life?
Yeah.
Probably the thing I'm most proud of is that I've just, since I was, basically my entire adult life, have stuck to this core thing of trying to just make change, in mental health, and have been able to, probably lucky by circumstance, to initially, be in the media and have a platform to talk about it, and, have that opportunity to try and use my voice to get that message out there. So I'm probably proud that I've been able to do that. And, it may not change the world, but I think it has, or I've seen that it's helped people here and there. And, I think it's really fortunate to be able to do that. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. And then the other part is, like what you said before, being able to go from dealing with all these traumatic events, being incredibly shy and insecure, and vomiting when I'd go and talk in front of 3 or 4 people, to then becoming an actor and actually having work and being on having different roles and speaking all over the world. And if I look back at it that way, I always think, oh God, that's like if someone said to me when I was 20 that I would have that career, I would have laughed at them. I would have thought that's an impossibility. So that's what I'm most proud of.
As a mother of 3 kids in their 20s, my oldest son definitely suffers from anxiety and depression. And when I first realized it, it was really difficult to navigate my way through that without micromanaging him, but then also not responding. It sounds like your parents were really, they got that balance right. How would you describe how your parents were back then when you were really struggling, and how did they help you?
Yeah, I think they were pretty good at not micro managing it. I think they maybe, it's like a lot of parents from their generation as well weren't, didn't have a lot of education in how do you deal with this stuff? What is it? They, and they're incredible parents, but we didn't grow up really talking about emotions and things like that. So I think they just did it to the best of their ability, and eventually intervened when they saw that I was really going down a pretty dark hole. And yeah, they were good. It was a learning experience for them as well. But they were good at sort of helping to guide me to get the help I needed, and then be part of that process. Because, like you're saying, it's a really tricky thing where if it's someone you care about, especially, you sort of the natural feeling is I want to shake them and just help them do this, and I can see what they could do to change. But it doesn't always work, does it? So it's sort of navigating that's really difficult. Which for anyone, I guess that's a continual process of how do you manage that.
Yeah, and you also have to manage, you as the parent have to manage your own fear and anxiety, because if you're the more fearful and anxious you are, the more your child's going to be, or your friend, or whoever it is. Like, it's really really hard to do, but really important.
Yeah.
You talk also about creating a daily routine that helps you keep on top of your mental health and well-being. and thrive. Do you still maintain that? And if so, how would you describe your daily routine?
I do, and I think it's, really important, and for me anyway. And I think for any, a big part about the book is about teaching people to find within their own, realm, what are some simple things that I can do that make me feel good. But for me, the biggest one is exercise, and I come from a competitive sporting background, and exercise just makes me feel good, and I love doing it, and it's sort of ingrained in me. So that's like a daily thing, or I have one day off a week where I might go for a walk or something. But I mainly do it just mentally, and more so than the physical side. I do it because it just makes me mentally feel really good. And then I gratitude journal every morning. I meditate every day. And then probably one of the biggest ones is I talk. I have people that I'm really close with and I'm a very big on communication. I need to talk about things, so I have people that I talk to, and they talk to me, and that I'm close to, and I think that helps a lot as well. So I think it's for anyone, having your own versions of things that you can do that not only help daily, but when you do find yourself in a position where your world feels like it's falling apart, that's where I've in the past found that it's so critical, because then when we are overwhelmed, it's often because we feel like we can't control anything. Well, one thing you can actually control is these daily habits that you do. And even for how I'm traveling and living overseas, and it's a bit of a crazy lifestyle at the moment, but then even when I feel unsettled, I know that daily I can do these things that are, they become almost like my home in a weird way, that these are my comfort sort of things that I do. And I can't sort of recommend highly enough how much it helps.
Agreed. And also the people that you chose to put in the book and quote, I think were an interesting range of people, like the Wayne, how do I say his last name? Schloss?
Yeah, Wayne Schwass. Yep, that was close.
Strong, yeah, strong, athletic, if you like, alpha male, and then the actresses and the
Yeah.
psychologists. I loved how you did all that. It was really well balanced, because sometimes, um, as I said in the beginning of the conversation, I read a lot of books in this category. Sometimes they can tip over into too many quotes from too many people, and it doesn't become relevant anymore. So I really liked the way you did that. And
Thank you.
you mention often in the book, Nick, that your goal is simple: to make global changes in mental health by whatever means available to me. How's that going? And how do you see the present and the future?
Yeah, I think it's that is, yeah, it's a big goal but a simple goal. But I think it is, I feel like I'm on track doing that, and I'm over in the US, and sort of I look at it, I try to look at it that the goal is getting that message out, and it doesn't matter how far or how wide or what platform it happens through, as long as I'm finding, always looking at what is the best way.
So nice to talk to you and learn more about this book and your experiences. And as I said again in the beginning, I love the simplicity of it because it's so powerful.
Get these messages across.
Exactly. Um, I just want to read a few things from the book, if that's okay.
Yep.
So my hope is that in the future, we don't have to re-educate people about mental health. It should be a part of our daily learnings, taught to us through parenting, schooling, and in organizations. It should be part of the daily conversation, seen in the exact same way that we see physical issues that are tangible, such as diabetes, obesity, and cancer. And it should start at school. Mental health education needs to become embedded in our schooling systems. I've written this book as a tool and guide to help you find your own unique and sustainable way to improve your well-being. You don't have to do everything at once. Just get started and start small. Then take things up a notch and set yourself up for success with continual monitoring and improvement. This will help you set up for a life of integrity, discipline, meaning, and purpose.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
love
for reading
that.
it.
That's really
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much for talking to me. I'm really looking forward to continuing to work with you and, um, get people reading this book because it's really, really good.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Rely on New Yorker. So when I find something that I really love, whether it's a hairdresser or a restaurant or a chef or whatever, or a book, I tell everyone I know to read it. So that's what I'm going to do from here. And I think I'm going to see you later on tonight for your book launch in Australia.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah. So that's exciting as well. Yeah, I think So no, that'll be doing a book launch with Manu from the book. So that'll be good. But yeah, again, thank you so much for reading it and for the kind words about it. And like I said, it means a lot coming from you. So I massively appreciate it.
My pleasure, Nick. Thank you for talking to me. Stay well and stay safe.